Okay, so this is the third in our series today. And again, I broke it down because I really think these topics are very, very important. And I want to make sure that by clicking in, you're at least going to see the first information on each one. The the series we're going to talk about today, or the specific episode right now, is Uber hit with default robo-firing ruling after another EU labor rights GDPR challenge. So we're going to talk into how artificial intelligence algorithms are going to affect you, not only in the future, but today, and have been for a while. So again, in this series, we started out back here with private people launching rockets into space funded by your taxpayer money under the cover of a military R&D resource. And in this case, let's arm it with nuclear rockets. Um, and more information about that organization, DARPA, and how it peers up in our worlds. There's quite a bit of information again on that site. I encourage you to click on it. From there, I talked about how it relates from a bigger world of something that you may or may not feel you have control to your daily life of social media. And in this case, DARPA on the Facebook campus and their new research lab. Now, again, this article was written back in 2016, but now we can fast forward. We're at 5 years beyond that, and what has come out of that. We've also looked at border solutions, as Korea refers to this, and I certainly am not rooting for that here. And then in this article, I want to bring it home. I really want to talk about how these relationships that are formed, the mindset that thinks it's okay to name something in this fashion, drives the decision tree that is the core function by that piece of metal that now has arms and legs, can chase you, is weaponized, and even more importantly, might just not even have arms or legs or a weapon that we can see, however, tears apart our lives. I did an issue yesterday, and again, it's a hard one. Nobody likes to talk about the post-traumatic stress and the trauma of a workplace, really domestic violence, or even the codependency that's created in that relationship of I show up and do more so that I can get paid. And if you remove that, I can't provide for myself. There's a lot of correlation there. It is very deep in our psyche and so much in the manipulation. Now we have to remember, a lot of this planet has been under a slavery rule. Work today is not all that much different. Conditions are better, but the basic scenario, very, very interesting. Okay, so here we go. Of course, the EU has come out quite a bit with their GDPR rights for privacy. In this case, we're looking at labor rights. So what happens when you work for a company? Maybe you were fired from one company, or furloughed or laid off, whatever term they want to give to you, but the bottom line is they're not paying you anymore. So after about a year, you finally find another career role. Well, you often got to start at the bottom. Even if you step into an upper level, you haven't been there. You got to learn the ropes. You got to know which ropes to skip, which ones to jump. There's a lot of mental power that goes into that, and earning the right to be there. And we are reminded that every day. So now what happens? Typically, if an individual messes up in an organization, it might be cultural, it may be economical, it might be theft or stealing or lying, but often it's very far from that. It might be something as basic as when you were made the offer, the package to you was higher than what the company now wants to support in that department. And in order for a supervisor to receive a bonus or an increase, they cut your salary in order to add to theirs. Thus, you're in the wrong. Really, are you in the wrong? No, but you lost your job. So there's so many situations and moving factors that we go into, but typically what happens is an individual will come to you and either say, look, we're doing furloughs or layoffs. And if it's over a certain number in California, they have to give the state of California a heads up that they'll be doing that. By have to, there's not really a penalty, so it's if you want to. And state of California isn't really going to help you. For a while, they had retraining programs and different economic development solutions. Really didn't pan out. California continued to even lie about the numbers. At one point during the dot-com era, the city of San Jose produced a report from the Economic Office of Economic Development by the city of San Jose, and I was an employee at the time. Um, we posted that at the very peak, the unemployment rate touched upon an 8%, but really the whole time it floated around 5%, and it never significantly got beyond 5%, other than that one brush with a peak, and then the numbers were corrected. By corrected, they mean they changed them, because we all knew that you could walk outside and in any neighborhood, 1 out of 3 homes had been affected by a job loss. We knew that the actual unemployment in this valley during the dot-com bust was somewhere between 32 and 38%, but those numbers were never published. So the manipulation of the data, the facts, really drives, well, it's based on the information put in and how it's massaged on the way out, correct? So now we've got a situation where when people have lost their core careers, or maybe come out of a university in a situation where jobs just weren't available, many turn to this gig economy. Now, from a tax preparation standpoint and an overview of trying the different platforms, I have seen situations such as Uber and Lyft and DoorDash as a great solution if in fact you have a W-2 job and or you're going to school, so you've got something else core in your life, and then you do this on the side. And it might be on your route. Let's say you commute home an hour every day. Well, instead of just commuting home, you turn on the Uber, you pick somebody up, you drop them off. You've just had somebody pay for your gas on a ride you're going to do anyways. Maybe on a weekend, you spend a few hours helping somebody out deliver groceries. It works out great. But what I've seen is when individuals look at this as making their own company, as has been touted to them within, in this case, Uber is the title here, then they are using their own core research of a vehicle that gets depreciated and devalued over a period of time. They are also putting gas and then the basic maintenance, tires and oil changes, windshield wiper fluid. It all adds up. And the more you use your vehicle, the more miles you get on it, the less you're going to be able to sell it for. As individuals are using this as a core business structure for a main vehicle that they have, they're essentially running their car into the ground, but at the end of the year, not in most cases, not coming out significantly ahead. Now, I will say most cases, because as we recall, when Uber first came out of the gate, they had massive amounts of VC funding, and they threw this at the drivers. You come on our platform and we will just give you huge bonuses. So it could be $1,500 if you gave 3 rides. If it could be another $3,000 if you gave rides in a certain time period and you referred so many friends. They're constantly through. Well, that subsidy without the wear and tear of your core research of your vehicle really added up, and people could make a lot of money. But as we move forward, and IPOs hit and accountability hit, this money wasn't being thrown at the drivers anymore. In fact, not only on the front end were the cash bonuses not as prevalent, but also the algorithms restricted the amount of money that a driver could make. In fact, the platform could take maybe 60, 62%, leave the driver with a smaller portion of 38, 40%, and get the driver has all the risk, all the burden. Now, this is a good scenario. Somebody else has developed this, the network, the marketing, the software. You just have to hop in your car, log in, pick somebody up, drop them off, make a few bucks. Again, in a micro environment of your life that works on a macro of support. What about medical benefits? What about, let's say, heaven forbid, in the effort of picking somebody up, somebody rear ends you. We saw so many cases where these rideshare companies, although they tout that they've got $1 million of insurance, they wouldn't allow the insurance to cover the accidents, even if a rider was in the car. And if they did, it would be a long process. And that meant that that vehicle that was in the accident was probably decommissioned for a period of time before they could get back on the road. Okay, so, they didn't have their vehicle. This doesn't mean a vacation. This means this individual did not have earned paid time off, did not have medical benefits to cover if they had to go to the hospital, didn't cover a family leave. And as we saw during layoffs and or government lockdowns, they didn't even have basic protections of unemployment, even if they did this as a full-time sole earning job. So EU has come up with solutions on this. What they're saying is somebody has programmed the software, which is creates through this algorithm that is developed that decides who gets the rides, how it's dispersed, and it also comes up with this rating system, how many stars a driver rates you, how many rides that you accept versus turn down. It could even, and it does within the ride, if you took the most direct route, if you got the most miles, how you add, everything's on. And there, in many cases, they even record audio in addition to video right from the app. We learned that back in, that would have been about circa 2010 to 12, when in San Francisco, headquarters for Uber, FBI agents were using Uber to get dropped off to specific locations rather than taking their cars. And Uber would go ahead and track those agents for, they said minutes, facts showed even longer, into their destinations and into homes, offices, or places of surveillance. Big issue. Okay, so this article, April 14th, yesterday, was Natasha Lomas. TechCrunch is one of our great resources. Of course, TechCrunch.com offers a lot of tech news. And if you flip it around and you look at crunchbase.com, you can see angel and VC funding of middle to late stage startups. It's really a fascinating process. I've done episodes on that before, but certainly we'll look at that again. As you're looking for a job, it's good to know the stability of that company, where the money came from, and the viability, also the run rate. How long are they expected to have that money before they hit a cliff and they can't pay anyone anymore? So again, that's crunchbase.com. Okay, so here, Uber hit with default robo-firing ruling after another EU labor rights GDPR challenge. I'm going to focus right here on labor rights. One of the issues that we're facing right now in California and in the United States, but in California has Department of Fair Employment of Housing. This makes sure that everybody in the employment and in the housing has some level of protection. So this is a government agency at a California level. We also have EEOC, which is economic. I'm sorry, I don't have that tip of my tongue. It's a sister agency, typically run at a federal level. And by the way, in my understanding, federal employees cannot participate in either of these without exception. So lack of protection there. But anyways, let's say that an employer knows the rules. They can't say, hey, you're too old, we're not going to hire you. But they send you a letter and say, hey, you're too old, we're not going to hire you. And you might say, hey, nobody's that stupid. I'm here to say, these tech companies have been getting away with this for a very long time. It's not about stupidity. It's about, I am powerful. I call the shots. I can tell you whatever you want because there's nothing you can do. So in this scenario, and it's happening over and over again, and it's happened to me, settlement handled. They're just outright state that an age or a gender or a this or a that. Google's known to have stated cultural fit as a person, if you're not going to be a drinking buddy on a Friday night, which obviously sets in with a friendship of a parameter of who they want to hang out with, then you don't get the job. So there's a whole variety of this. So let's look at these government agencies. Government agencies are really on a socialist welfare path. And they're not necessarily made by the strongest individuals in society who have the highest level of education and can command the best salaries. So that scenario instead goes to these tech companies who pay very, very well, have very well benefits, and now are again wagging the dog of these corporations. So Department of Fair Employment of Housing might have an employment issue, absolute clear violation in writing. Um, so we've got written evidence. We've got a regulation that has been broken, and Department of Fair and Housing might do an investigation, and their investigation would go something like this. You claim discrimination. Do you have evidence? Okay, we will now contact the company. The company will then be told that that somebody has claimed discrimination against you. Do you discriminate? The company will say, why, no, we don't discriminate. And then they will say, well, we feel that there may have been an issue here, that a violation has been occurred. Would you like to create a settlement? And they say, no, we don't want to. And then the government agency goes back to the person who was discriminated against and says, I'm sorry, the company doesn't want to participate. Good luck with your life. There is no enforcement. And what's even better than this is if we talk about the terms whitelist and blacklist, individuals who start down this process, whether winning or not, are automatically put on a no hire list that circulates among the tech community and now drafts out to many communities. And these people are red flag. They're troublemakers. These individuals have spoken out. We don't want them to work for us. Good luck getting another job. So here, EU has stood up and said, hey, wait, people have rights. Labor activists challenging Uber over what they allege are robo-firings. So this is, of course, an algorithm has decided that for some reason this individual will no longer be working on this platform, and they let them go. In some cases, Uber had installed a face recognition. The face recognition does not work as well on females, as without clarification, also individuals wearing makeup, and then also individuals with darker pigment in their skin. This is known. However, when this was launched during COVID, we saw that a number of individuals would log on to their app for their morning routine in order to start their company within an Uber platform, as the examples have come forward. And they were denied access, shut off, because the image used by the software, which primarily comes out of a Microsoft software, did not match what the computer thought it would be. So that person lost at least 1 day wages. In many cases, they could not even get into anybody in the company to respond for 3 or 4 months. That's their whole company, their job, everything. And again, because unemployment wasn't paid, they didn't have a fallback. So let's read this. Labor activists challenging Uber over what they are calling robo-firings of drivers in Europe have trumpeted winning a default judgment in the Netherlands, where the Court of Amsterdam ordered the ride-hailing giant to reinstate 6 drivers who the litigants claim were unfairly terminated by algorithmic means. The court ordered Uber to pay the fired drivers compensation. The challenge references Article 22. Here you go. You can read into that if you want. The activists say this is the first time a court has ordered the overturning of an automated decision to dismiss workers from employment. This is a first. This means this is happening all the time. These people finally got to court. Now you can read more about this particular issue, but the bottom line is a person didn't even in that moment make a decision. Somebody kicking back, making a very high salary in a desk that doesn't know anything about the real world, or having to drive their car every day and the sweat and labor that goes into that, programmed a machine to run numbers to all of a sudden cut off somebody's livelihood. So this is a big deal, that a robot is allowed to decide whether or not you can go to work. Now this takes it even a step forward, as China's rating system. See if this will come up on this. Of course, anytime we look at this, China always says that, here we go, social credit system. This was, where are we gonna, China. Okay, this is from the UK. China ranks citizens with a social credit system. So this has been talked about for quite a while. We're seeing this more and more here with the cancel culture. Right now, it's neighbor attacking neighbor. However, it's spawned, and we're seeing that some articles are put in front of, of other articles and given more credence. In this case, some individuals are allowed to work, some are not allowed to work. And as you're not allowed to work, your friends are distanced from you because their score will drop. Support, money, income, education, all of this starts to be ripped away. In this case, this was by The Independent, by Alexandra Ma, and this was from 2018. Now, you might recall in May of 2018 was the exact year that Google decided that maybe they weren't going to say, what was the term? Don't be evil. They removed that from their guiding principles. So this May of 2018 is a really big deal for the world. China ranks citizens with a social credit system. Here's what you can do wrong and how you can be punished. The Chinese state is setting up a vast ranking system that will monitor the behavior of its enormous population and rank them all based on social credit. Okay, so this is up for another story to really dig into what that means. Again, this was 3 years ago that this came up, and we know this is pulled forward. I want to step back here again. We started out on a level that was really more of a dream world. We don't have a direct relationship with so much of what goes on in space, private people playing with toys, government funding, social corporate welfare, and FOIA. We've moved into, what is DARPA and the benefits and really the fun and technology breakthroughs there that are national security going to protect you. And then we moved into leveraging R&D processes by taking taxpayer money as an initiative in order to have companies and universities launch into deeper military projects. And then in the segment 2, we looked at how DARPA now relates to you. These other things were kind of outside of our normal everyday control. Social media is our everyday control, and how the psychological manipulations are really affecting us on a day-to-day basis. And if you don't turn it on, somebody in your household is, or somebody in your neighborhood is. We then looked at what is being used with this technology that has come out of the military and the R&D and border protection from private companies that have been engaged in that. We then looked at how the terms and thus the cognitive mindset of the human who originally programmed the software then relates into the day-to-day workings of how that robot makes decisions. And then, of course, here in the third segment, we looked into robots now making the decisions that affect you in your everyday life, whether it's allowing you a job or firing you from a job. And in the future, which is here today, we also looked at the opportunity that China has been testing, presenting, and is now evident in the United States through cancel culture as a common term, but much broader that we will get into as China ranks their citizens with the social credit system. All right, so this is our 3-part series. Everybody, heads up, this information is not for fear or for anger. The more educated you are, the stronger your questions can be, and the greater chance you have of creating a life plan that will benefit you and your family rather than to buy into somebody else's plan. Hi.